Happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeremy Cordeux. Peter Clayton is here in the garage. We're on Facebook, so if you're listening to us as a podcast and you'd like to tune into Facebook, Jeremy Cordeux's Court of Public Opinion, you will sort of see where we do it, how we do it. Although, Pete, I don't know how we do it. It's a bit strange. We're talking about relocating in our move to upgrade everything or make everything a little bit more interactive, but I'll keep you posted across that. Before we get into the news of the day, and there's enough around for God's sake. April the 3rd, 33, that's AD 33. It's a long time ago. AD 33. Christ was sacrificed. Well, it's controversial as to exactly what the date was, but this is according to astronomers Humphreys and Waddington. Obviously more to come as Easter approaches. Now, we haven't actually made up our minds whether we are going to broadcast over Easter. I think we might take a break over Easter. Yeah. So we'll leave you on Thursday and come back on Tuesday of next week after Easter. And needless to say, but I get a chance to wish you a happy Easter closer to the moment. Doris Day, 1922, American singer, animal welfare activist, actress, known as the girl next door. Just the most beautiful lady. I only spoke to her once and it was very brief, but it was, I can't even remember what the promotion was about, but I do remember her, because I remember Bing Crosby and Bob Hope and Jack Benny and so many of those others from that same era who were just the most wonderful, friendly, generous people with their time. Doris Day, she was born this day in 1922. Pillow Talk, the man who knew too much, born in Cincinnati, Ohio. She died in 2019, so had a very good life. Eddie Murphy, 1961, American comedian and actor. Beverly Hills Cop, and all sorts of other things that he might not want to talk about or have remembered, I don't know. Born in Brooklyn in New York, 1961. Jane Goodall, I've spoken to her too. British, here's a word I haven't seen before, primatologist. I knew she was an anthropologist, but they've given her a new title here. A primatologist. Writer. She wrote about the chimpanzees and the gorillas and gorillas in the mist and all of that. She was just a wonderful, wonderful lady. Great humanitarian. Born this day in 1934. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill warns the Soviet Union's leader at the time, Joseph Stalin, that a German invasion was imminent. 1941. Whoa. That could be one warning I'd want to take notice of. Elvis Presley records It's Now or Never. Fever and Are You Lonesome Tonight, which I think was probably the most beautiful of his songs. Pete, which Elvis Presley song did you like?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, I thought later on in his life, I thought Moody Blue was great.
Yeah.
Just
I like Suspicious Minds.
No.
Kentucky Rain.
Suspicious Minds, he did a cover of that because it wasn't his song. The bloke who actually did it sounded a lot like Elvis. I, for the life of me, can't remember who that was. Dear old Elvis Presley. Anyway, that was recorded at RCA Studios in Nashville, Tennessee on this day in 1960. 1960. Mariah Carey overtakes Elvis Presley's record of 17 number one US hits with her 18th hit, which was called Touch My Body. Only the Beatles have more than 20 number one hits. And that was in 2008. The Duchess of Windsor's jewels sell at auction for $31.380 million. 1987. Australia formally adopts the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Now, I don't know who would have been Prime Minister. Let me think. It would have to be Labor. It was Rudd. 2009. Pete reckons it was Rudd. 2009. We're always adopting these treaties and we have no idea of the sting in the tail further down the track or the obligations involved. The first airplane flight over Mount Everest in 1933. It doesn't tell me here why. My dear friend over here behind me. Sir Edmund Hillary. He's funny. He was just a very not a pretentious man. He called himself Ed. Ed Hillary. Never even used the Sir. Ed Hillary. I wonder what he would have made of that. Did the easy way. I mean, you take off down there and wherever and fly over. You make it to the summit in 10 seconds flat. Anyway, that was in 1933. And Ed made it up a few years later. Marlon Brando, the American actor, Godfather, Streetcar Named Desire, On the Waterfront, born Omaha, Nebraska. He died in 2004, but born this day in 1924, same day as Doris Day. The German explorer Ludwig Leichhardt is seen for the last time at McPherson Station before he disappears on the expedition to reach the Swan River in Australia. Some of the things for which we remember the day, and we must always remember the day. I don't know who exactly put me onto this business of being fixated by that which has gone before, but we must remember it, because the fear I have is that the one thing we learn from history is we learn nothing from history. And there's so much stuff from which we can learn and benefit. Not to speak of the people we should honour. Yeah. Stock markets of the world are up and away. Bouncing along quite nicely, thank you very much. Labor, it seems, will be unable to form a majority government in New South Wales after the state election last week. That means, I guess, that the Labor government will go on its merry way with the blessing of the Greens and the crossbenchers. What do they say? Politics is the art of compromise. Of course, you can compromise yourself straight to hell, but I would imagine there'll be all sorts of grubby little backroom deals that will be done to stay in power. That's how the thing works. Daylight savings about to come to an end. You do know what to do, don't you? Pete, what do you do?
I never remember.
Well, the best way to remember it is, yeah, well, you fall back in fall, which is autumn,
Okay.
and you spring forward in spring. But, you know, there's no point in remembering it. Really, I don't like daylight saving. It's not a particularly good idea, but if you want to do it, just put it forward and leave it there. Don't keep moving it backwards and forwards. Leave it there. It's that business of, don't understand it.
Well, I like the idea, Jeremy, of going on Eastern Standard Time.
Why would you go on Eastern Standard Time?
Business, and that gives a half an hour of daylight saving.
Well, let them come back
Really?
and do it our way.
Anyway,
When they're over there on the east, we don't want to give them any more encouragement. God, they think we're a branch office already. We never were, you know, until fairly recently. We had a lot of people in power that would never have allowed the stuff that has been going on. You know, Coca-Cola's head office was here, News Limited head office. There were so many of them. Sir Norman Young, Sir Kenneth May, wonderful men of business who were leaders in the entire country. And then we got raided, corporate raiders, you know, who just simply come in and strip the assets, sack all the people and move on. No, we've made some fundamental mistakes in South Australia which we shouldn't have done. Maybe we can rectify them. Speaking of the other states, I see a big builder in Victoria is reported to have gone under. A lot of people affected by this. Porter Davis, their name. I don't know the name, but then again, I'm not a Victorian. Porter Davis. I mentioned to you a few weeks ago that the building and construction industry was going to be in for some troubled times with a lot of casualties, and I'm sorry, many more I fear to come. It's a boom and bust business, construction, building and construction, as is, of course, car retailing. You know, these are the kind of canary in the cage. It doesn't really come down to this, I hope. I hope. The US presidential election, out of 350, I think it is, 350 million people in the United States of America. It's a contest between the geriatric and unhinged and the erratic and the know-nothing narcissist. How could that possibly be? You'd imagine they would be able to pick from the brightest and the best. Oh, my God. And they're kind of picking over the entrails of what went on some years ago to achieve, I have no idea what. It's certainly not a blueprint, or it certainly should not be a blueprint for the future. The 45th President of the United States continues, this is Trump I'm talking about, continues to be a polarizing and fascinating political career. Even in my own family, well, Pete and I haven't talked about Trump, but even in my own family, he's totally divisive. Things like, they're out to get him! They're out to get him before the next election. And others say, no, he's a sleazebag. No, you can't possibly. He's a crook. Well, you've got to make up your own mind. But what a sideshow. It's a mini-series, a movie. Well, perhaps a movie, then a mini-series. But it's entertainment, isn't it? Pulp Fiction. It's got everything, including a porn star. What do you think of him, Pete?
He has some good ideas, but I don't like him. No.
I think he's a bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
You just don't want him in charge of the nuclear button.
Presidential. He is not.
No, he's not presidential. He's revolutionary. I don't know that the world is ready for him. But just a sensible conservative. There must be somebody out there with, you know, two brains to rub together, who can communicate and also engender the kind of enthusiasm that Trump can. I want to talk to you about this, cashless banks. Did you see it? Cashless banks. What? Cashless banks. Is this some kind of parallel universe? Banks don't want to handle cash. Banks closing down their branches, which you would imagine would be the lifeblood, always was, the lifeblood of the banks, the branches. They don't want people doing anything but electronic banking, online banking, which I won't do. Checkbooks on the way out. What could be more profitable for these banks than the current business model? What is it exactly that they're trying to revolutionize themselves into? I'll bet some highly paid consultant is behind the whole thing. The only thing wrong with running a bank is the customers. I can hear it. The only thing wrong with running a bank is the customers. If we can just get rid of the customers, everything will be fine. It reminds me of that episode of Yes Minister, where they had Pete. Did you ever see it?
No.
Oh, it was wonderful. Where they had a hospital, or brand new hospital, and it was running perfectly, beautifully. Everything was functioning magnificently. The Prime Minister said to Sir Humphrey, what's the problem? It's perfect. And Sir Humphrey said, there are no patients. Well, Sir Humphrey's solution to the whole thing about the cluttered up, frustratingly inefficient British health system was the patients. If you get rid of the patients, the hospitals would run perfectly. And I can guarantee you that there's some, pimply-faced, and I don't mean that disparagingly, but some pimply-faced young genius consultant who's telling the banks, yeah, this is fantastic, but it's the customers. We've just got to get rid of the customers. Then everything will be fine. But here's an interesting fun fact. The 5 strongest banks in the world, where do you think they are? The 5 strongest banks in the world are here in Australia. That is because most of the overseas banks, including the big ones, I mean the very, very big ones, have much less regulation. Now think about it. The 5 strongest banks in the world. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. ANZ, by the way, is number 1. Commonwealth is number 2. Westpac, I forget the rest, but that's the scenario. The 5 strongest banks in the world. Number 1 to number 5. Now with success like that, why would you change anything? What's better than the best? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. As I remember saying to somebody in radio, not so long ago. Or is it some stupid pursuit of more and more and more and more and more profit? I don't think it makes any sense to me. Thank you very, very much for viewing the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeremy Cordeux. Peter Clayton and I will be back tomorrow. Believe in yourself and take good care. Bye for now.